She played me, lied to me, buried me, but the thing about the buried? We always claw our way back, stronger, smarter, and ready to burn everything down. The words echoed like a broken record in my mind, looping over and over, fueling the fire inside me. My thoughts twisted, searching for ways to make her pay. Maybe I wasn't just betrayed in that moment, maybe I was becoming something else, something darker, and I don't mind. Mercy was no longer on my table. My name is Mia Carter, and for the past 4 years I've done everything right. Late nights, early mornings, extra credit, whatever it took to stand out. And now, I was one step away from the finish line. My final project, a business proposal, was more than just a grade. It was my golden ticket to a career-making internship, the kind that could change everything. And through it all, there was Riley, my best friend, my study partner, the person who knew every struggle, every late-night breakdown, every dream I was chasing. I trusted her like a sister. And that was my mistake. But trust is a dangerous thing. One moment, you believe someone has your back. The next, you're sitting across from a professor, being told your future no longer belongs to you. I learned that the hard way. That afternoon replayed in my mind like an old tape, grainy and inescapable. The chair in Professor Langley's office felt colder than usual, the air heavier. His fingers drummed against the folder on his desk. My folder. But something was wrong. His eyes held something I had never seen before. Disappointment. He exhaled, slow and measured. "Mia," he said, voice calm but firm. "I'm afraid your business proposal has been rejected." The words didn't make sense. Rejected? That wasn't possible. I had spent months refining that proposal, running on caffeine and pure ambition to make it flawless. "There must be a mistake," I said, my voice sharp, desperate. "I worked on this for weeks." He raised a hand, stopping me cold. "The issue isn't the quality, Mia." His voice remained even, steady. "The issue is plagiarism." A hollow ringing filled my ears. I barely registered the rest of his words. "Riley submitted the same proposal before you. She provided timestamps, documentation. She claims you copied her work." I let out a broken, disbelieving laugh. "That's not true." "I'm sorry, but based on the evidence," he pushed a folder toward me, thick with paperwork that wasn't mine. "You're facing academic suspension. I suggest you consider an appeal, if you have any proof of authorship." Proof. The word clawed at my mind, searching for something, anything that could save me. But I had nothing. No emails, no drafts, no evidence that it was mine first, just my word against Riley's. My vision blurred. My hands trembled as I reached for the folder, flipping through pages of my work, now stamped with her name. Riley had thought of everything, and she had left me with nothing. I swallowed hard, forcing down the rage, the humiliation. There was no point in breaking down here. Not yet. Because if I was going to fight this, I needed more than desperation. I needed a plan. After getting home, I sat curled on the edge of my bed, arms wrapped around myself, staring blankly at the floor. The walls of my room felt smaller, pressing in, suffocating. My mind raced, looping through every word from that meeting, every page of my work stamped with her name. A soft knock. Then the door creaked open. "Mia?" Riley's voice was gentle, hesitant. Concern dripped from it like honey, but I heard something else beneath it. Curiosity. I looked up at her, let my lips quiver, and then, right on cue, the tears came. Not loud, not messy, just enough to look shattered. My voice cracked. I buried my face in my hands. I think I'm getting expelled," Riley gasped, rushing to my side. "What? Mia, what happened?" I let out a shaky breath. "Plagiarism," I whispered, "for my business proposal." She stiffened, just for a second, but I caught it. Then, just as quickly, she smoothed her expression, slipping into the role of the concerned best friend. "Oh my God, Mia. No, that can't be right." She pulled me into a hug, her hand rubbing slow, comforting circles on my back. "You would never do something like that." I sniffled, shaking my head. But they think I did, and now, I don't know what to do. If I get suspended, I lose everything. I let out a deep, shuddering breath. Everything I worked for, gone. Riley's hand stilled for a beat before she pulled away, watching me carefully. Did they tell you whose work they think you copied? I looked away, shaking my head. No, I whispered. The professor just warned me, said the evidence was strong. I lied because I know the professor told me out of courtesy, and Riley wouldn't see that coming. So, I have to pretend like a novice. Riley exhaled, a mix of relief and masked amusement flickering across her face. God, Mia, this is so unfair, she sighed, tilting her head. What are you going to do? I swallowed, forcing my lips to tremble. I don't know, I just need to get it all out of my system first. Mourn it. I let out a hollow laugh. I mean, what can I do, right? Riley smiled, soft and sympathetic. Yeah, of course. Just take your time. She thought she had me. She thought I was weak. I wiped my eyes, nodding, letting the weight of fake defeat settle over me. But behind the act, behind the tears, my mind was already working. She had no idea. Not yet. But soon she would. For a brief, burning moment, I wanted to confront her, to rip off the mask she wore so effortlessly, to throw the accusation in her face, watch her scramble for an excuse, see the flicker of panic when she realized I knew. I imagined it, her wide-eyed shock, the stammered denials, the fake outrage. Maybe she'd scoff and play the victim. Maybe she'd smirk, knowing I had no proof. Either way, she'd win. That thought stopped me cold. This wasn't about rage. It wasn't about justice. It was about making her fall. And for that, I needed patience. As the days progressed, I was planning, and during one of the days, I decided to lure her in. I looked at her sitting on my bed and eating my food. She sat across from me, twirling a strand of hair around her finger, pretending to be deep in thought. The same hands that had stolen my work, the same mind that had framed me. She thought she was untouchable. Fine. Let her believe that. I sniffled, rubbing at my eyes as if they were still swollen from crying. I think I have one last chance, I murmured, just loud enough for her to hear. Riley perked up, her expression carefully neutral. Yeah? I hesitated, let her see the struggle, the fake vulnerability. Then, with a shaky breath, I nodded. I will forward an appeal to the school's senate. Thank God I have the original work. I will work on it and make it better. It's going to be a flawless work, and we'll see if the thief who stole my work can do so. Riley leaned in, interested. You're making a new project? I let out a bitter laugh. Not entirely new, just the old work, but something better than it. I shook my head. Not that it matters. I barely have time, and after this mess, I don't even know if I have it in me, but I will try. That's the only way I'll remain in this school. She gave me a slow, careful look. What's it about? I hesitated just long enough to be believable. I have no idea, I mumbled, looking away. I still have a lot to figure out. I knew she'd take the bait I dropped. Over the next few days, I worked, not on a real project, but on a trap. The proposal was flawless on the surface, well-structured, ambitious, exactly the kind of thing that would impress a board of executives. But beneath the polished exterior, it was rotten, just enough flawed citations to crumble under scrutiny, a landmine disguised as gold. And then I waited for her. The moment I hit save, a weight lifted off my chest. It was done. Every calculation, every data point, every projection, it was perfect the way I wanted. I leaned back, stretching my arms above my head before grabbing my phone. Me, finally done, just need to submit it. Riley, OMG, yes, you pulled it off. Can I see? I hesitated, just for a second. Then I reminded myself, this was part of the plan. Me, sure, come over. 15 minutes later, Riley was lounging on my bed, scrolling through her phone as I pulled up the document on my laptop. You're seriously insane, she said, skimming through the first few slides. How do you come up with this stuff? I gave a tired laugh. I barely came up for air this week. Worth it, she grinned. This is solid. We fell into easy conversation, jokes, inside references, mindless gossip, just like before, just like when I thought I could trust her. So sad she couldn't spot what was wrong in my document right away. She leaned over, eyes flicking across my screen. Damn, you really bounced back. I shrugged. Had no choice. She hummed in response, fingers tapping absent-mindedly against my desk. I glanced at the time. Be right back. Need the bathroom. I stood, stretching again, and walked out of the room, leaving my laptop open. I counted the seconds in my head. 1, 2, 3. By the time I closed the bathroom door, I already knew. When I came back, Riley was exactly where I left her, lounging on my bed, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. I sat down, catching the faintest flicker of tension in her shoulders before she stretched, yawning. Oh, crap, she said suddenly, slapping a hand to her forehead. I totally forgot. I have to meet Professor Halloway about that finance elective. I raised a brow. Right now? She shot me an apologetic smile, already swinging her legs off the bed. Yeah, he's leaving campus soon, and I need to talk to him before he does. I nodded slowly, watching as she grabbed her bag. Thanks for letting me see it, she added, slinging it over her shoulder. You're gonna kill this submission. I smiled. So would she. Just not in the way she thought. She waved, casual as ever, and walked out of my room. I waited until I heard the front door shut. Then I turned back to my laptop, pulling up my file access history. Opened, 3 minutes ago, downloaded, sent to unknown device, closed my laptop, and exhaled slowly. There it was. Proof. Riley had done exactly what I expected, what I counted on. I could have confronted her. I could have sent the screenshot straight to Professor Langley and ended it here. But that wasn't the plan. She needed to fail publicly. She needed to crash and burn where it mattered most. Luckily for me, we had a mock presentation before the final panel review, a rehearsal, a test run, a perfect stage for her downfall. That day, the classroom buzzed with low chatter, students shifting in their seats, flipping through notes. I sat near the back, my laptop open but untouched. My hands rested lightly on the keyboard, but my focus wasn't on my screen. It was on Riley. She sat near the front, legs crossed, her usual air of confidence wrapped around her like armor. Her fingers drummed against the desk in an impatient rhythm, her gaze flicking toward the professor. She wanted to go first. She needed to go first. I leaned back in my chair. Perfect. Professor Langley glanced at the list. All right, Riley, since you seem eager, let's start with you. She stood smoothly, tugging at the hem of her blazer, then strode to the podium with the kind of certainty that only thieves and fools have. The screen behind her came to life as she pulled up her slides, a crisp, professional layout. The numbers were bold and clear. The title, the one I had written, front and center. She smiled, a winning smile, a watch and learn smile. Then she began. The future of consumer trends relies heavily on projected market increases. Based on my research, we can expect a 37% rise in... Stop! Professor Langley's voice cut through the room like a blade. Riley froze, mid-sentence, mid-smirk. The professor adjusted his glasses, squinting at the data on the screen. Did you say 37%? Riley hesitated, then nodded. Yes. A pause, then, can you explain where this figure comes from? A flicker of something crossed her face. Brief, quick. But I caught it. She cleared her throat. From the market analysis of the past 3 years, I cross-referenced multiple sources. Professor Langley didn't nod. He didn't look convinced. Instead, he turned to his laptop, typing something quickly. The room was silent. Seconds passed, then he looked up. Strange, he said casually, because every credible market projection suggests an 18% increase, not 37%. Riley's breath hitched. Well, Professor Langley clicked his pen. Which sources did you cross-reference? A single bead of sweat formed at her temple. I have them in my notes. Great, let's hear them. The class turned toward her, eyes sharp, waiting. Riley's fingers twitched at her sides. She flipped a page in her notebook, then another. The rustling of paper felt deafening. She let out a small, nervous laugh. I must have mixed them up. That's quite a mix-up, Langley interrupted, especially considering your backup data contains the same incorrect statistics. I am also going through other slides and I see a lot of wrong statistics and data. Riley's face drained of color. Someone near the back snickered. Langley leaned forward, elbows resting on the desk. His expression was neutral, almost bored. Tell me, Riley, did you even check your own work? A beat of silence. Riley opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. Of course I... Langley exhaled through his nose, slow and measured. Then he tapped his laptop once. The projector screen shifted. A market report, the real one. Every single number on it contradicted her data. Whispers spread through the class. Someone muttered, "Oh, damn." Riley stood stiff, her lips pressed into a thin line. I could see it in her eyes. The moment she realized she was drowning, and there was no way out. Langley leaned back in his chair. This is why we conduct mock presentations, to catch errors before the final panel. A pause. A slow, deliberate pause. Though I have to admit, this doesn't feel like an error. Another chuckle from the back. The tension in the room was suffocating. Riley was drowning, and for the first time, she had no way to spin it. No quick lie, no smooth excuse. I pushed my chair back and stood. All eyes turned to me as I walked to the front of the class, my steps slow and deliberate. I didn't rush, didn't speak, let them wonder. Riley's gaze snapped to me, wide and frantic. Her hands twitched at her sides. I reached the podium, turned to face the class, and exhaled. "Professor," I said, voice steady, stronger than I'd felt in weeks. "I think I can clear this up." Langley raised a brow. "Go ahead, Mia." I turned to the screen, where Riley's presentation, my work, was still displayed. "This project," I said, gesturing to the data behind me, "was stolen." Murmurs erupted, some gasps, a few knowing chuckles. Riley took a step forward. "Mia, wait, I lifted a hand, silencing her. "You had your turn. Now it's mine." She froze. I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen twice, and held it up for everyone to see. "This," I said, scrolling through the timestamps, drafts, and emails of the recent work I did, "is my proof." I also showed the proof of Riley downloading my work. I looked Riley dead in the eye. "I don't just think you stole this." My voice dipped lower, sharper. "I know you did." Langley's lips pressed into a thin line as he took the phone from my hand, scanning the files. Silence. Then he sighed and shook his head. "This is disappointing," he muttered. He set the phone down, then leveled Riley with a look so cold she visibly shrank. "I don't believe you did any of this work," he said, voice flat. "You didn't research these numbers. You didn't write this proposal. You didn't build this project. You simply took someone else's effort and tried to claim it as your own." Riley's mouth opened, then shut. Langley exhaled through his nose, shaking his head again. "I'll be taking this matter up with the ethics board." More whispers. Someone laughed under their breath. Riley's face crumpled. I turned back to the screen, closing her stolen presentation and pulling up the real one. While I was creating the fake project, I also improved my original work. Then, I took over, and unlike Riley, I had nothing to stumble over. I delivered the correct data, the real projections, the actual research backs up every claim. And by the time I finished, the difference was painfully obvious. Langley gave a slow nod. "Excellent work, Mia. You always were one of my strongest students." I glanced at Riley. She hadn't moved. I didn't smirk, didn't gloat. I didn't need to. I just gathered my things, turned, and walked out. I barely made it past the building doors before I heard footsteps rushing behind me. "Mia, wait!" I didn't stop. She hurried ahead, stepping in front of me and blocking my path. "Mia, please, just listen." I crossed my arms and raised a brow. "Oh? You have something to say now?" She swallowed. I just... A shaky breath. "I'm sorry." I stared at her. She shifted, wringing her hands. "I wasn't thinking. I panicked, and I knew I wasn't going to do as well, and I tilted my head. "You knew?" She flinched. "I mean, I didn't want to fail, okay?" I let the words sit there, let her fidget in them. She sighed, eyes darting to the ground, then, just as quickly, her tone shifted. "I mean, come on, Mia." She laughed bitterly. "You're the smart one. You always have been. I don't have your brains. I don't want to always be stuck in your shadow." I inhaled slowly, shaking my head. You didn't want to put in the work." She blinked. "You could have done this. You could have studied harder, asked for help. But instead you took the easier route. You stole my work, then stood in front of that class like you deserved to be there." Her jaw clenched. "I just wanted a chance to be seen." I scoffed. "And in doing that, you tried to erase me." She opened her mouth, maybe to defend herself, maybe to lie again, but I held up a hand. "I'm done." My voice was calm, cold, final. Her face fell. "Don't visit me. Don't text. Don't reach out to any of my friends or family." I leveled her with a stare. "You're blocked. Permanently." She took a shaky step back. "Mia, I turned and walked away.